I'm just going to talk a little bit about this whole idea of Joe Biden being a one-term president. Officials in his campaign leaked to Politico. I know this is a little bit old news, but back in December, that he would potentially not run for re-election. If he is elected, he wouldn't run for re-election in 2020. Now, I've heard people tell me this on Facebook as if I'm pointing out uh, corruption about Joe Biden, as if it's some kind of defense for Joe Biden. That, oh, you don't want to vote for Joe? Well, guess what? Don't worry, he'll step down to his vice president during his term. Is that supposed to be exciting? Like, who gets excited for a president who's like, don't worry, I won't run for re-election? Is that supposed to make me feel better? Is that supposed to drive support for him? Now, I've stated before that there are very limited conditions where I might vote for Joe Biden. Might. If Joe Biden is a one-term president, then that means he won't be president for as long as he possibly can to mend the wounds of the country and bring forth all of his big ideas, his bold agenda. If you go on to Joe Biden's website and you look at his platform, he talks about bringing affordable access to affordable health care for nurses and frontline workers during this pandemic. Joe Biden has stated previously several times over he's not for Medicare for all. He'll make a point that suggests, oh, we need a single payer system, but I'm not for Medicare for all. But we need a single payer system. But I'm not really, I'm not on board with that whole single payer Medicare for all thing. I want to enhance the Affordable Care Act. I want to enhance Obamacare. That's supposed to help Americans? So if Joe Biden is a one-term president, then he's not going to be in a place of power for as long as he can to push his ideas for as long as he can. He'll leave that up to his vice president. Why would we be talking about him stepping down in the first place? Is it because he's too old? I don't recall Bernie Sanders, who was also in his 70s, talking about, if I'm president, don't worry, I'll only be a one-term president. I won't work as hard as I can for 8 whole years to, bring this country to a place where, Americans aren't suffering as so badly anymore. I'll only do it for, half as long as I potentially could. That wouldn't drive excitement for me. That wouldn't bring enthusiasm to Bernie Sanders. He never, as far as I know, never claimed that he would be a one-term president. But because it's Joe Biden, this is okay. This is some kind of good thing. If you go on CNN and you listen to Chris Eliza slob over Joe Biden and his potential female vice presidents, there's an article on CNN that talks about Joe Biden's top 10 female contenders for vice president. A few of them I really don't know that much about, but several I do, and none of them do I trust would be good vice presidents. There's Stacey Abrams, who I think it was on MSNBC, where she went on to defend Joe Biden against the Tara Reade allegations and lying about New York Times doing their own investigation, which really is not an official investigation, into Tara Reade's allegations, and they concluded that, there was no merit to it. She lied so much about that the New York Times had to say, we didn't say that. We didn't conclude that there was no merit to it. They just wouldn't run her story. But back in 2018, Stacey Abrams was one of these Democrats who stood up for Christine Blasey Ford because there wasn't an official investigation, and I believe her. I believe her against Brett Kavanaugh, even though there was less evidence in Christine's case than there was here in Tara Reade's case. Now, I still believe Ford. I still believe her allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, I also believe Tara Reade. And I believe there's even more merit to Tara Reade's allegation than there was in Christine's case. So, Stacey Abrams. I don't like her. I don't trust her. I don't believe she might be good on some African American issues. But as a whole, is she good? Will she disclose all of her donors? I don't think so. There's another, Gretchen Whitmer, who basically is a sellout to insurance giant, Blue Cross Blue Shield, who would go on CNN and say that, oh, it's sexist to infer that a woman is beholden to her father's former employer. Her father was head of, he basically ran, Blue Cross Blue Shield in Michigan. But that's sexist. So that identity politics bullshit right there. Gretchen Whitmer, another potential vice presidential pick for Joe Biden. I don't trust her either. She hosts fundraisers where lobbyists give her thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars a day. She's an insurance company sellout. She would not bring us Medicare for all, and that's one of the issues that I would vote for a candidate on explicitly for Medicare for all. Joe Biden's not for Medicare for all. Gretchen Whitmer is not for Medicare for all because she's an insurance company sellout. Another presidential contender is, of course, Elizabeth Warren, who also, within the last 10 months, I've lost so much respect for Elizabeth Warren. She backed off of Medicare for all. She's good in Congress when it comes to stomping and shouting at corrupt individuals. When it came to the Wells Fargo hearings, she was great on that. You know, but Liz Warren is still a Republican at heart. She's still a sellout. She lied to Bernie's face and the public about Bernie being sexist and saying that, oh, he said a woman can't be president. Why did you drop out, Elizabeth Warren? Do you think a woman can't be president? I don't believe Bernie said that. And in fact, I think that if he did say anything close to that, he said, because of sexism right now and other gender biases, that he doesn't believe a woman has the chance to be president today. Maybe he said that. But he didn't say, I don't think a woman could be president. By oversimplifying what he might have said to her. Liz Warren is a liar who also encourages this idea that the Bernie campaign was full of racist, hateful bros. And we're all we're all sexist bros who hate women and other people of other ethnicities. If it was true that I'm racist, why the hell would I be voting for Bernie Sanders? He's Jewish. You want to play identity politics? I'm trying to elect the first Jewish president. Oh, look at me. Look at me, what an anti-Semite I am voting for Bernie Sanders. Am I anti-Semitic for calling out Israel's genocide on Palestinians too? Is that anti-Semitic? Is it anti-Semitic to criticize Israel? I like that Bernie Sanders calls out Israel. If Hamas is bad, it doesn't make you the better person for shooting someone, for shooting the human shield. If Hamas uses human shields by firing artillery towards Israel, by firing missiles towards Israel from Palestine, it doesn't make you the better person to shoot the human shield. Israel shoots children, snipes children all the time. And they set up Jewish-only settlements. So that's Zionism. Setting up Jewish-only states is a form of apartheid. It's a form of racism. Aside from that, there are two top contenders for Joe Biden's vice presidential picks, and that's Amy Klobuchar and Kamala Harris. Now, for one, Amy Klobuchar is a boring plank of wood who is not for Medicare for all. She's all for talking about, during the debates, she was all for talking about all the things we just can't do right now. We can't do all this right now. We can't do this. We can't do that. I'm certainly not for that. I don't really think that's a good idea. But let me tell you, I think America needs to come together. No wonder she fucking failed. She dropped out of the campaign because she was all for talking about all the shit that you can't do. Also, she's verbally and physically abusive to her staff. Several allegations about that. Also, I think she should stay in a padded cell, eating her salad with a comb. Look that up about Amy Klobuchar eating her salad with a hair comb. And as for Kamala Harris, fuck her. Fuck Kamala Harris. She's a prosecutor who gleefully laughs about jailing poor, poverty-stricken single mothers for their kids' truancy. Doesn't give a fuck about them. Doesn't give a fuck about that. Jailing mothers because of their kids' truancy. She'll go on a podcast and laugh about smoking weed. But it will be the first to jail non-violent drug offenders and other people who smoke weed. She didn't say she didn't inhale. So fuck her, and fuck the rest of them. The most limited conditions I have for voting for Joe Biden, even though I don't believe he will win, but I don't know whether or not he will win. This race could go either way. But the only conditions in which I would consider, not even decide, not even absolutely vote for Joe Biden, but I would consider it, given the circumstances. If it comes down to his vice presidents, there are three people I would consider voting for Joe Biden if he made them his vice president. The first one is Nina Turner, who is a African-American female. Oh, look at me and my identity politics. I'm such a misogynist, racist, because I would consider voting for Joe if he made a black woman his vice president, who I would trust being vice president because she would be a voice of reason in the room. She's stronger than Bernie when it comes to fighting propaganda and answering stupid questions from the stupid mainstream media. When it came to Russiagate, she was strong. When it came to how do you think Americans? What do you think about this whole Russia stuff and blah blah blah? What do you think about Trump being helped by Russia? She's like, go to Flint, Michigan, and ask these people what's on their first priority for voting for a president. Is it Russia? Maybe the first thing they'll talk to you about is wanting clean fucking water. Because, by the way, Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water. Nina is strong. She was a leader in Bernie Sanders' campaign. She was a powerful voice, and I would very much trust her being vice president. The second is Jill Stein, because when she talks, she just makes sense. And she's more aggressive when it comes to dealing with the media and talking to them during interviews when she's posed stupid gotcha questions. She's good. She's a fast talker. She makes good points. When she speaks, I just agree with her. She just makes sense. And she's a fucking doctor who is for Medicare for all. And that's why I voted for Jill Stein back in 2016, because she's for what I'm for. She's for making sure that Americans don't die or go bankrupt from a lack of medical care. So Jill Stein, her as vice president. And the third would be Bernie Sanders. He would be my third. If Joe Biden wouldn't pick Nina Turner, I guarantee he wouldn't pick Jill Stein. If he wouldn't pick them for vice president, if he picked Bernie, then I might also consider voting for him. Because Bernie Sanders is the only president I want to vote for. Now, having said all that, if Joe Biden wouldn't make any of those people his vice president, there are 3 top issues for me that I would also consider voting for Joe if he made it a point, and given his record, I don't trust him on these. But put aside his record, even though that's what matters most, put aside his record for the moment, I would consider voting for Joe if he swore that he would fight non-stop. If he made these top 3 things his policy platform, the 3 main issues he would fight on, for me, would be legalize, tax, and regulate marijuana, UBI, Universal Basic Income, or as Kyle Kalinske refers to it as Social Security for all Americans above the age of 17, and I would settle for no less than $1,500 a month. So make that part of your platform. And 3, Medicare for all. Now, if you asked me, I won't do all those. I won't do all 3 of those, but I'll do 2. If Joe Biden had to pick just 2, all right, fine. I'll cave in on one of my policy issues. I would cave in. Medicare for all and legalize, tax, and regulate marijuana. So those 2 things, I would only consider voting for Joe. And that's as lenient as I can get. I would settle for nothing less than that. You're not going to make me give up on everything I value. All of my policy substance. You're not going to make me give up on that. Don't tell me we can't afford Medicare for all when we spend trillions of dollars a year on war and our foreign policy, the military-industrial complex. And how much money do insurance companies make from people? How much money do insurance companies make, health insurance companies make, from denying care, from denying coverage? People get sick. It happens. We're human. That's what insurance companies do. They're, as Kyle Kalinske puts it, they are rapacious, for-profit, mafia-like, price-gouging middlemen who get between you and your doctor. I know doctors do not like dealing with insurance companies. They don't like it. So having said all that, I have absolutely no enthusiasm for Joe Biden. And even if he promised me that he would, he looked me in the eye and said, I will fight for Medicare for all, UBI, and legalizing, taxing, and regulating marijuana. I just don't believe him. And the only other options would be to consider would be that he makes Jill Stein, Nina Turner, or Bernie Sanders as vice president. And I just don't think that's going to happen. So I have nothing to vote for in that case. I'm going to vote Green Party, or I'm going to vote for Bernie Sanders if he's still on the ballot, because I'm not caving in. I'm not giving up all of my values. I'm not going to do it. People get hyperbolic and say that, I don't think this country will last another 4 years with Trump. Like, sinkholes are going to start opening up, and a black hole will open up in the sky, and the Empire State Building will crumble. Fucking Yellowstone supervolcano will fucking explode and destroy America if Trump is elected for another 4 years. Now, both Trump and Biden are too terrible for me to vote for. So if you're going to sit there and tell me that I'm helping Trump by not voting for Biden, well, let's go further with that logic. How about you should be happy because I'm helping Joe Biden by not voting for Trump. Don't worry, be happy. Every little thing will be all right because I'm not voting for Trump, so I'm helping Biden. You see how that sounds? And also, don't voter shame. Because that's not going to win you my vote. People who make fun of people, Bernie Sanders voters mocking us like we're crying children. It just proves that you fundamentally misunderstand the framework and perspective of Bernie Sanders voters, non-voters, and independent voters. When all these Democrats are selling out to big money interests, that makes people give up on politics. Now, I myself, I still see it as a civic duty to vote. I still see it as something I have to do in order to send what little reverberations out into the world that I can. But you're not going to make me vote for the lesser evil anymore, because I don't want to vote for evil anymore. I voted for Jill Stein because she was good. I didn't vote for Hillary because she was evil. However lesser and evil it is, it's still fucking evil. And if we continue to cave in to that narrative that third parties just can never win, well then guess what? A third party will never win because you believe the Kool-Aid that the media feeds you, that third parties, they're just not viable. Maybe because not enough people vote for them.